There's a newfound scientific study on ketogenic diets that state that low-carb ketogenic diets are the absolute worst for sustainable fat loss. And in this video, we're going to go through it together, and I'm going to show you the facts on why low-carb and ketogenic diets are not the answer to your fat loss problem. So you've been spinning your wheels for some time now, trying low-carb diets, but you cannot finally get that last little bit of belly fat off. Stick around for this entire video because I'm going to share the facts with you and how we're actually going to help you. So in this video, we're going to go through a couple key concepts on why keto diets ruin fat loss, why carbs are important for fat loss, and then three main facts around carbohydrates for the increase of serotonin, improvement of hormones, and then the reduction of inflammation and cortisol. So if you guys don't know me by now, my name's Adam Bunnell. I'm an online fat loss professional, and I specialize in the science of metabolism. And metabolic priming in general is what I specialize with in my clients in improving their metabolism to allow them to eat more food and get more shredded than ever. And so today, listen closely to this video because I'm about to give you the sauce. So I've worked with almost 400 plus men online using metabolic priming and strategic metabolism manipulation to get my clients to elite level body compositions. And so we use this exact process of understanding how carbohydrates are associated to your metabolism to get our clients as lean as possible. And here are just a few of the screenshots from the past week in our current community of some of the guys. One of our clients here, 1,000 more calories a day, down 25 pounds, no cardio. Crazy what more carbs to do. Hell a week. Work's not done. With another new low, eating almost 3,000 calories. 46 pounds down, more food, no cardio. Exact same weight, eating 900 calories more, 3,000 calories per day. Eating 450 grams of carbs a day and getting leaner. And so to tell you the truth, that carbohydrates in your diet are a necessity, and you do not need to be going out and starving yourself, getting to very low carbohydrate diets, or being scared of carbohydrates. There is a stigma around the fitness industry that the fitness industry has lied to you about carbohydrates, that they're bad for you, that you need to cut them out, and that's simply just not true. And we have almost 400 case studies that actually show our clients eating more carbohydrates and losing more body fat. And so the reason why keto diets ruin fat loss is, one, keto diets actually create insulin resistance. So in this study, low carbohydrate intake correlates with trends of insulin resistance and metabolic acidosis in healthy, lean individuals. So why I put an emphasis on healthy, lean individuals is because if you're 400 pounds, you could probably just eat less calories and eat less carbohydrates, yes. But for healthy, lean individuals, you need to have carbohydrates into your diet, right? And so in this discussion, the findings of the study showed that for the first time, low carbohydrate intake in healthy individuals of normal weight might lead to dysfunctional glucose homeostasis, increased metabolic acidosis, and the possibility of triggering inflammation by C-peptide elevation in plasma. And then in another study, low carbohydrate diets cause obesity. Low carbohydrate diets reverse obesity, a metabolic mechanism resolving the paradox. They found, in fact, despite the enormous popularity of low-carbohydrate diets, such as the Atkins, low South Beef, and Zone diet, the professional consensus is that low-carbohydrate diets, which typically implies high fats, are more likely to produce obesity than reverse obesity. And this is because when you go to very low-carbohydrate diets and you take glucose completely out of your diet and then you add glucose back in, you are well more susceptible for rapid weight gain. And you're probably listening to this right now and thinking, oh, this is me. You go very low carbohydrate diet, you lose 15, 20 pounds, and you start eating carbs again, and you gain it all back. So going into the actual science of why carbohydrates are important for fat loss, it's important to understand the actual key concepts behind the macromolecule of carbohydrates, right? So carbohydrates, first of all, has a 4 calories per gram as opposed to a 9 calorie per gram for fat and a 4 calories a gram per protein. And then carbohydrates directly influence leptin. So leptin is the satiety hormone, right? And so an increased calorie burn actually comes with the increase of carbohydrates. And I'm going to explain why when we get into more of like non-energy activity thermogenesis and also hormones revolving around the thyroid hormone and carbohydrates. But it's important to note that carbohydrates support bodily functions and BMR, physical activity. And then the basal metabolic rate, making up 60% of your entire metabolism, is obviously very important to note that carbohydrates influence 60% of your entire metabolism. And then also, it's the body's preferred fuel source. Your body prefers to burn carbohydrates, right? So the fact number one is that carbohydrates increase the level of serotonin, the happiness hormone, right? So if you're somebody who feels stressed all the time, feels tired all the time, has bad digestion, has bad mental focus, it's because the depletion of actual serotonin, because carbohydrates increase the level of serotonin, the happiness hormone. They lead to an improvement of sleep, improvement of digestion, improvement of mental focus. And in this study right here, carbohydrates can influence serotonin levels in the brain, impacting mood, sleep, and appetite. This connection stems from the fact that carbohydrates, particularly those that trigger insulin release, can facilitate the transport of tryptophan and amino acids and serotonin precursor into the brain where it's converted into serotonin. So fact number 2 is the improvement of thyroid hormone. So with the improvement of actual carbohydrates into your diet, you can have an improvement of the active thyroid hormone of T3, right? And so basically, T3 is the active thyroid hormone, and there is a direct correlation between T3 and overall carbohydrates, right? And so in this study, yes, carbohydrates can influence levels of T3, the active thyroid hormone. Specifically, a high carbohydrate diet appears to be associated with higher T3 levels compared to a very low carbohydrate diet. This is because carbohydrates, along with overall caloric intake, can affect the conversion of T4, an active thyroid hormone, to T3. Additionally, low carbohydrate intake can impact the production of reverse T3, an inactive form of thyroid hormone that can block the action of T3. So carbohydrates and T3 conversion. T3 is the active thyroid hormone. Impact of low-carb diets. Very low-carb diets like ketogenic diets may reduce T3 levels. This is because the lack of carbohydrates can reduce the conversion of T4 to T3. And then even in the Vermont study findings, among others, found that T3 and reverse T3 are sensitive to calorie and carbohydrate intake, with low intake potentially lead to lower T3 and higher reverse T3. So important to note that your thyroid hormones do particularly run off what? Carbohydrates, right? Your thyroid hormones run off carbohydrates. An increase of carbohydrates leads to an increase of your overall metabolism and such. And then even in this study, the effect of caloric restriction and dietary composition of serum T3 and reverse T3 in men, we conclude that dietary carbohydrates is an important regulated factor into T3 production in man. In contrast, reverse T3 concentration is not significantly affected by changes in dietary carbohydrates. So it's important to note that carbohydrates directly impact hormones within your actual thyroid. So these low-carb diets that you guys go on thinking it's the answer starts to drown your metabolism, starts to kill your metabolism, starts to kill the thyroid hormones that surround supporting your actual metabolism. So it makes sense why, one, when you get to a low-carb diet, you get very insulin resistant. You add any more carbohydrates, you probably get bloated, tired, and you just feel like you're drowning out all the time. So you go back to doing low-carb diets because you've stuck yourself there in a very bad position. But it also makes sense why a lot of people will actually gain the weight back. In that 30% of people have a weight regain problem because of low-carb ketogenic diets. Because these low-carb ketogenic diets put you in a position for very rapid weight gain. So carbohydrates can also indirectly affect non-energy activity thermogenesis, which makes up 15% of your total metabolism, right? So you have your BMR, which makes up 60% of your metabolism. You have your NEAT, which makes up 15%. So an overall 75% of your metabolism revolves around carbohydrates, right? So by influencing energy levels, as the body primarily uses carbohydrates for fuel, when you consume sufficient carbs, you have more ready available energy to perform everyday activities, potentially leading to a higher level of non-energy activity thermogenesis through increased movement and fidgeting through the day. Key points about carbs and NEAT. Carbs are the body's preferred fuel source of energy, meaning adequate carb intake can support higher levels of increased non-energy activity thermogenesis. And subsequently, low-carb diets and NEAT, very low-carb diets, may negatively impact NEAT due to potential fatigue and reduced energy levels, leading to less movement through the day. So you guys who eat these low-carb diets and just feel absolutely zapped and just drowned all the way through the day, you can't make it through work, you get home, you don't have enough energy even left over for the family, you hit the bed, and you're just absolutely crushed because of the low-carb diets, you simply are putting yourself in a bad position because you're leading to insulin resistance, you're leading to very rapid weight gain through the drowning out of your metabolism, and you're also putting yourself where you're not actually having the energy to even, perform non-energy activity thermogenesis, which is like just the simple movements that you have through the day because psychologically you're so tired from a low carbohydrate diet. So fact number 3, reduction of cortisol and inflammation. So carbohydrates reduce stress and cortisol and the reduction of bodily inflammation. So it's important to note is that like within most men that do come to us, cortisol is a huge regulatory factor in the guys we work with. We work with CEOs, bankers, pilots, ER doctors, guys who have higher levels of cortisol. And so if we don't implement a mechanism of reduction of cortisol through carbohydrates and sleep and making sure we're getting all the hormones in check, you can put yourself in a position where your body will restrict you from losing fat because of higher levels of cortisol. And so we have to take care of that. You have to have carbohydrates in your diet to reduce this cortisol. So in this study, low carbohydrate diets and cortisol, low carbohydrate diets, especially those very low in carbohydrates like ketogenic diets, can trigger the stress response, potentially leading to increased cortisol levels. This is because the body may need to produce more cortisol to generate glucose from alternative sources when carbohydrate intake is limited. Insulin resistance. Chronic stress and elevated cortisol can impair insulin sensitivity, leading to higher blood sugar levels, increased fat storage, and especially around the abdomen. So a lot of you guys who lost my channel, you want to get rid of that last little bit of belly fat, a little bit of belly fat that's at the lower region. And that's simply just not having the correct carbohydrates amount to actually reduce cortisol and actually get into that and tap into that abdominal region, right? Cortisol can influence where fat is stored, potentially favoring abdominal fat storage. Inflammation. Cortisol has anti-inflammatory properties, but prolonged elevation can lead to inflammation, which can negatively impact metabolism and potentially contribute to weight gain. The role of inflammation. Inflammation can disrupt metabolic processes, making it hard to lose weight. Inflammation could also be a byproduct of chronic stress, which is linked to elevated cortisol. So what I want you to understand about cortisol and inflammation is that it is a very cellular active property, right? Inflammation is a very cellular active property. Cortisol, raised levels of cortisol, a very cellular active property, which means that it takes a lot of your cellular activity, energy within your body that you don't even realize to try to reduce this. And if we don't have a mechanism of allowing the body and helping the body to reduce inflammation and cortisol, your body will restrict you from losing body fat. And that is why it's important to have carbohydrates in your diet, because they are the key mechanism of reducing cortisol and reducing inflammation, reducing adrenal fatigue, and everything in between. So it's the biggest thing about this video is I want you to understand is that like, if you eat a overconsumption of carbohydrates, you will gain weight. But the correct amount of carbohydrates will lead to a better body composition, reduction of cortisol, better sleep, better mental focus, and everything in between. Because what a lot of guys will do is they'll track their calories, they'll track their protein, but they won't track their carbs and fats. You need to be able to track your protein, carbs, and fats because you need to have the correct amount of carbohydrates. I work with 125 men as of right now online. Each one of them has a different set of macronutrients. Each one of them has a different set of training plan. Each one of them has a different rest and recovery extension. And so you all need to understand what your body needs carbohydrate-wise if you want to get to a sustainable lean physique. Because everybody listening to my channel, you know how to like starve yourself to the point where you lose weight, but you're watching my channel because you've been drowned out by ketogenic diets, been screwed over time and time again without actually reaching a sustainable physique, a sustainable lean physique. And I'm telling you right now, the key factor that you're missing is not having the correct carbohydrates in place to reduce cortisol, to reduce inflammation, to improve thyroid hormones, to increase serotonin, sleep, digestion, and mental focus. Because this is a slippery slope. Because as soon as you start to reduce the actual quality of your sleep, what happens is subsequently to that is that you actually have reduced levels of digestion. You have reduced levels of mental focus. And so as one of these actual hormones, serotonin, T3, it starts to actually downregulate, there is a cascading effect that happens as a subsequent effect of like the specific sleep, digestion, mental focus, T3 or cortisol. And then you start to slide down this path where you start to feel highly fatigued, highly tired, terrible sleep, brain fog, zero energy. And it all starts with understanding the correct amount of carbohydrates, the correct amount of carbohydrates that you need in specifically for your busy work day, for what you do for work, how much you're on your feet, how much you're working out, how much muscle tissue that you have, your body weight, your age, and everything in between. But when you get the correct amount of carbohydrates, there is a synergistic effect that happens with your body composition that allows you to get leaner, trying even less, right? Not putting as much effort into the wrong places, because you can put all the effort in the absolute world in the wrong places and receive zero progress. Or you could put the right effort in the right places at the right time and understand what you need, and you can make amazing progress and sustain it very, very easily. So if you like this type of video, like, comment, and subscribe. If you're somebody who's been struggling for some time now with low carbohydrate diets, your metabolism is just shot from yo-yo dieting, ketogenic diets for as long as you have been, there will be a link in the description of this video. I want you to apply. I want you to see if it's a good fit for us to work together. We will give you a full analysis of a comprehensive metabolic analysis to show exactly where you're at metabolically, where you're looking to get, and what's exactly stopping you from getting there. And we can simply come in and implement the correct amount of everything, cut you a ton of time, wasting time trying X, Y, Z, and we can just give it to you right there. And I promise you'll make progress within the next few weeks if you do get the correct amount. And that's how easy it is. Guys come to us because they want us to lay it out. They want us to save them time trying X, Y, Z and getting it right first. And so we come in, we implement the correct process, we implement the correct macronutrients, we implement the correct routine structure around your workday, travel, family time, out to eat with the wife, vacation, whatever it may be. And we take all of that stress off your plate, because you deserve a next level physique. You don't deserve to sit there for one more single second and wonder what it would look like to be one of my clients, to look like one of these guys that I work with, look like these 40 to 55-year-old men that are absolutely stupid shredded, eating more food and losing more body fat, right? And so if that sounds like you and you've been struggling with keto diets and you want an actual way to lose body fat using a scientific approach, click the link below. But for the guys who just watch my channel for free information, you guys are more than happy to go through all of my videos. You'll make some progress, but you guys, if you want to see a next level physique, you need all the pieces put in place, and you need a full analysis done. So, like I said, like, comment, subscribe, turn my bell notifications on down below, because I do videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the purpose of helping you, the viewers, out, and I'll see you guys next time.